Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. This is video 7 in the series Successful Living. We are in the book of Nehemiah and we're kind of going through Nehemiah's process and how God leads us when we have a call on our life, and we all do. We all have a purpose. So last week we left off where, well, I'll just do a little catch up. Nehemiah's heart was just like so heavy, and we ourselves get heavy hearts about things that happen in our life or things that we see and notice. Nehemiah prays to God and says, please hear, please see, please help. And I acknowledge the fact that the Israelites were corrupt, rejected you, rejected your ordinances, your truth, your statutes, and as you promised, you scattered them abroad. And I'm asking, return the children to their homeland. Nehemiah grew up in exile. So he was the cupbearer of the king, and so one day he's taking the king's wine, tasting the king's wine, giving it to the king, and the king's like, "Why are you so sad? You're not sick. Why is your heart so heavy? You're just depressed." And Nehemiah was afraid, but he had prayed before God, "Hear me, God, see me." And so he presented his request to the king. He goes, "Why wouldn't I be sad? The land of my fathers, where my fathers were buried, is in desolation." And here's what the king said: "What do you want? What do you want? If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your presence, I ask that you send me to Judah, to the city of my fathers' tombs, or where my fathers were buried, so that I may rebuild it." So he is asking the king. The king, beside whom the queen was sitting, asked me, "How long will your journey take?" So immediately the king responds and he says, "All right, you want to go rebuild? How long is this going to take? And when will you return?" So the king gave him permission. It says, "It pleased the king to send me." I find this so interesting. And I gave him a definite time of return. Then I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, please send letters to the governors of the lands that I am traveling through, with your permission, that I have permission to do this, so that I can pass through and reach Judah. Please tell the keeper of your forest, please write a letter to give me timber so I can construct the beams and the gates and the fortresses by the temple." And the king gave him everything. Everything Nehemiah asked, the king gave him. So when he came to the governors and the princes beyond the Euphrates River and gave them the king's letters, not only that, but the king sent officers and soldiers to protect him. Now, why is this important? This is important because when God puts something, and I believe God put that on Nehemiah's heart, that God puts something on your heart and it is heavy, and you're praying and you're pleading and you're fasting and you're acknowledging, God 100% opened up the door for Nehemiah. Not only did he do that, but he gave him everything he needed. Now, was Nehemiah able to do it? Did Nehemiah himself have the resources? No, but God gave it to him. And when we're on our journey, and when we are walking toward God, and when we are drawing near God, learning about his truth and acknowledging where we're wrong and correcting it, God opens up those doors. And it is nothing short of a miracle that we walk in. And I want to stop there because I want to start next week with the next part of Nehemiah arriving in Jerusalem. And so much of what happened to Nehemiah relates to everything we experience in our life. And I'm just going to do like a quick review, we've talked about our sources of influence. We've talked about having values. We talked about how do I prioritize? What areas of my life do I prioritize? My spiritual, my fitness, my family, my self improvement, my career, my work. These are all areas, and when we know what our priorities are, and we move forward in the direction that we believe God has given us, uh, there will be obstacles. And the things that are heavy on our heart, we present to our Heavenly Father, and here's Simba again. He wants to say hello, and God opens up the door. So God will perform what He's called us to do. And whatever God puts on our heart and whatever God calls us to do, it's not something that we can do really of our own resources, but God will give it to us.